Another beautiful day. We were in the 80s today. So nice.
What have you been up to?
I've been riding on a daydream.
We haven't done any work on the RV though. And I got a problem that cropped up on the truck, but I've just been holding my breath waiting for this to happen. Not a big deal. If you look at the date on the battery, yep, and it's time. The battery's suffering a little bit. So I got a tank cover today. Again, you can see I butchered this one up, and Heidi didn't like the way it looked. I didn't care the way it looked. I don't know if this is going to work though. It's a soft cover, but I don't know if it's going to be able to make that little bend there. You can see, right? I mean, the cover is supposed to cover all of this, so let's see how this works out. It might not. Alright, so there's a bunch of things I want to cover here. One of them is, look at this box. It was beat up. I don't know what Amazon's doing, but man, they're shipping it in the box without an overbox. I don't know who's doing that, but that's crazy. Good thing the cover was okay. But then they taped over the instructions, so you can only read part of it. It says zipper facing out. I did read that part, but in this case I need this zipper facing in, because the zipper facing out doesn't work for this. This is the other thing I had to do. Modify these, of course, because they go in the top to give this a nice squared off look. You put this in between to hold the pieces together, which I'm gonna have to trim this too. I just realized that. Some of the fun of shooting videos and doing stuff at the same time. The other thing I had to do is cut off my stud and mount this bracket lower. Most of the tanks, whenever you mount them, you can usually mount them on top here, on top of the hold brackets here, but this needs to be lower because it stood up too tall for these covers. They would hit. So I just went ahead and re-secured this lower, which I've seen this before. I think our pop-up was actually that way, and it holds it just as well. And of course, now the tallest thing on here is these two tank collars that protect the valve, so or carry collars, or whatever you want to call them. So we're good there. So let me go ahead and trim this piece, like I said, put it on, and slip in these hard covers, and then zip it up and see what it looks like. So far I think it might work though. It's going to be close, but it might work. The other thing I'm going to do is trim this down and make it a smoother transition so it's not poking into the plastic, because right now it's poking, and we don't want poking, not on this at least. So it works. Let's just say that's the best I could say about it, is it works. Of course it doesn't fit the way that it should. God, it's loud and slow. Can you believe that's the same car as Heidi's? Anyways, it fits. It is kind of bunched up around the jack like I thought it would be, but I mean it does the job. You can of course unzip it. You can access what you need. You can check the level in here. You can turn this. I mean, that's all I really need. And the good thing is it's not going to interfere with that generator near as much as that hardcover does. So I'm pleased, and it's not very expensive. It is a vinyl material, and I'm trying to think of something. It's the thickness of maybe a heavy-duty raft, or maybe one of those inflatable boats you might get at Walmart. So we'll see how long this lasts. But again, it's cheap, so that's why I didn't mind getting it and just seeing what comes of it. Yeah, that's going to do the job, I suppose. I'm going to put the link down below for this. If you guys are interested in this exact same one, if you want to help support this channel, click the link, and while you're in there, go shopping. You don't have to buy this, just use that link. So let's see what we come up with as far as a platform piece here, getting the generator on there, and there's a lot of other stuff I still need to do too. Those cables and rerunning the wires inside for the batteries. Yeah, a lot of work to do.
Hey YouTube, guess who's back? Ohio, the true Ohio's back.
Yeah, this is the way Ohio normally is in the winter. I thought that'd be a funny clip for you guys. Today's a little bit cooler, and I just wanted to remind myself that it could be much worse. It's cloudy today, it's 65 and it's windy, so I got my trash bag back on, Sully. I can't handle this below 70 stuff without long pants and a jacket. The rain came through and it was pretty brutal there for a while, but it's not too bad. So I'm working on the truck today, and I've got another project, yet another project. Can you believe it? Yeah, we've got a bunch going. So I have the painting that's going on in the interior of the RV. I have to finish up the generator mount and just finish that in general. And yet on my truck, I've got something going on. So let's go take a look at that. Well, on these old 460s, including the motorhome, so if you guys have a motorhome with a 460 in it, they have a factory oil cooler that's down there. And I'm kind of showing you the oil filter. You can barely see it down there. But there is an issue potentially with that oil cooler and failing. And it can fail in two different ways. One, it can fail and allow oil to get into the coolant, or it can fail and allow coolant to get into the oil. I don't know if that's what's going on or not, but my antifreeze gets brown and foamy. Well, the only way they can get brown and foamy is if it gets oil in it. And the other way that that can happen is, of course, a head gasket or an intake gasket issue. Now, I'm not ruling out the intake gasket or the head gasket issue. That could also be. However, with the fact that these are known to fail at some point, it's probably best that I just get rid of it. And that's going to cost some money. So I want to climb underneath and show you what that looks like. And I'll tell you why it's going to cost money. You'd think you'd eliminate it. It wouldn't cost money, but it does for the parts. See, the problem is the place where the oil filter goes and connects to the engine, there's not enough room to directly put an oil filter with an external cooler on back in that place. So the only way that you could put an oil filter on this truck is back here. And again, I don't know how well you're going to be able to see this, but this bolt here, it's a nut. It looks like a nut to you guys, but a bolt. It's the bolt head. That's where the oil filter would spin on. And you can see there's a frame right here. There is a hole, but it's just to access this bolt. You can't put an oil filter in here. It would hit the frame. So let's go ahead and show you what that looks like. Yeah, there you go. So you can see no oil filter can really fit in there. And it's a shame because that would make it nice and easy. For me at least. So what I've got to do is relocate the oil filter. So basically I'm underneath here today trying to figure out dimensions and where to mount stuff and all that happy stuff. So let me get a better idea of what I want to do, and we'll come back to this. All right, so I ordered all the parts for my truck. They're going to be here in a few days. Something else I got to wait for. But yeah, new lower radiator hose. I've got a oil adapter for the oil filter, and I have an oil cooler I have to mount. All I know is it's like $300 for all this stuff. Yeah. Like I said, projects after projects. So now let's go back to another project that I'm in the middle of, and I have yet another little addition to the project. I wanted to extend the exhaust, so I bought this little extension. You just take these two screws off. There's a spark arrestor in there. You place that back in, and then this just bolts back on. They even give you a couple screws. That's what these screws are here. So let me do that, and I'll show you why you'd want to do that extension. There's some safety, talking about how don't do it when it's hot, obviously. It says remove the two screws that hold the spark arrestor flange to the generator. Do not remove the flange. Okay, so basically when you remove the two screws, the flange is going to come off. The flange is what looks like you'll be replacing, but you don't replace it. What you do is you just bolt this on over top of what's existing. So in a perfect world, you would pull off both those screws and nothing would come off but those two screws. the flange usually comes off. That's why I have a magnet on a stick. That way I can hold it all in place. Also, it tells you to add Teflon tape or similar thread compound on threads, which it says it will add to the air tightness of the assembly. Now, I'm not sure exactly what the air tightness means, that part, but I did put thread locker, and it's high temp thread locker. You can get this at the auto parts store, and that helps with vibration with these two screws, because we know this generator is going to be vibrating, and if I put an exhaust tube on here, you know, that's going to try to hold it still. You definitely want to take care of these accidentally backing out. So now that that's on there, you know, it's just a matter of me putting on that exhaust pipe and putting it wherever I want. Apparently he makes ones, you know, extensions that are longer. I think that's long enough. I think that's just about perfect. The exhaust tube goes on here. You just want to clamp it to where it seals off, and you know, maybe we'll do a sound comparison. I wonder what it sounds like even with this on. All right, so we got it running. I got it on high idle. It's nice cool air coming out of here right now, but man, that stuff gets hot after a while. So I'm going to put this exhaust tube on here. I'm going to try to set up the camera where I don't have to touch it. Maybe you can hear the difference. I don't hear any difference. Let's hear what this end sounds like up close. The exhaust isn't noisy at all. It's actually this part here. Yeah, that actually makes noise more than the rest. I know you're thinking, oh, clamp it, it'll be quieter. Yeah, I'm sure it'll quiet it down a little bit, but I'm telling you, the exhaust noise, you can see how much exhaust is coming out. It's not that bad. It's everything else. That's why people spend the time and the money to get boxes that they can mount their generator and still allow it to cool, because it, you know, it does a good job muffling the sound even more. Just give you an idea, let me see. Let's pretend like I've got a piece of wood that's a piece of metal instead. Let me see if I can find one. I got so much junk around here, you think I'll be able to find one. There we go. There's a candidate. Wonder if that'll... it's a little bit on the big side. Maybe I can make it work. So, yeah, just redirecting the sound even. How about that? It gets even quieter. From that to that. That to that. Yeah, it's kind of funny. Acoustics is a funny thing. I like the extension. I think that's a good addition, and it'll help. It'll keep the heat off of the RV, although I still feel heat. It's funny because a little bit of the air is directed over the muffler to help it, you know, the heat to escape. Yeah, this is going to work out nice. So what I need to do is fabricate up some sort of a box. I need to make a platform for it to sit on. I was actually thinking of marine grade, painted and sealed, edged plywood for this to sit on. Wood is a better dampening media than, you know, aluminum would be, you know, metal on metal. But we'll come to that bridge when we cross it. So yeah, this is going to be nice. This little exhaust piece is going to be nice. Let's go ahead and shut this off. We'll let that cool off, and then we'll see if that exhaust piece is too big to manipulate to where I could clamp it and just leave it on there. Again, you know, once the generator's mounted on the tongue, and we're going to leave it on the tongue for a little while, we'll go ahead and hook up this exhaust pipe. I do have to plan that out. Whenever everything cools off, I'm going to plan it out. I'm going to find a nice route for it, and I'm going to secure it to the frame. And, you know, I've got clamps for that. It will transfer some heat into the frame, but it'll also act as a heat sink, the frame itself, so it'll help keep cool because of that. Not a big deal, and I can point the exhaust down. We don't have to worry about it, you know, necessarily being ingested into anybody's RV. I'm not blowing it directly into an RV if we were bumper to bumper or side by side, but usually when you're in a place that's you're running your generator, usually not on top of each other like that necessarily. So a good addition. Now I just have to order a bunch of parts and batteries and cables and everything else, and get that stuff routed inside the RV, converted over, and yeah, that'll be a whole nother ball game. I think that's going to be it for today. The video's gone long enough. I covered a couple days there that's involved, and I still have a lot to go. And again, I've got this project on this truck, and the funny part is this truck may be even a bigger project if I get those parts and replace that cooler, which needs to be done, and I still find I might have an antifreeze problem, because that means the intake's coming off. I'm going to replace the heads or remove the heads, replace the head gaskets, and while all that is off, I'm going to put a new cam and lifters in it. I'm going to give it a little bit more oomph. So it'll be nice, but it's also a chore, and it's expensive. And those heads are heavy. Those heads are like 70 pounds a piece. I'm going to need a crane just to lift the heads. I've never done a head gasket on a vehicle that's required me to lift the head off with some sort of a lifting mechanism other than myself. I'm used to doing small block Fords, so that'll be interesting. I'm done, and it really is a beautiful day. As always, guys, I hope to see you out there. Bye.